Hello and welcome to the Banyan Security Podcast, covering the security industry and beyond. In this first episode of the podcast, Get It Started, Get It Done, Banyan's Chief Security Officer Den Jones speaks with Banyan co-founder Tarun Desikan about the history of Banyan security, the realities of zero trust, the particular niche of challenges Banyan is solving, and how these solutions nest within the larger trends of the security industry, the rising culture of remote work, and beyond. It's a great discussion. Den and Tarun go far beyond the technical side of security solutions and technology and delve into what it's like to be a co-founder, what it's like to lead a small company competing with industry giants, cocktail recipes, and even igloo repair. It's a fun discussion. You get to know both Tarun and Den a little bit, so I hope you enjoy it.
Hey everybody, welcome to our very first Banyan Security Podcast, Get It Started, Get It Done. I'm your host, Den Jones. And every podcast, we're going to invite guests to join us and talk about things from security to leadership to life and anywhere else in between. Ideally, we're going to make it entertaining. We'd love your feedback along the way, and we'll just try and keep things fun. We'll try and keep it entertaining, and we'll try and make sure it's educational. So in our very first podcast, we've got a great guest. It's Tarun, and I think it's Desikan. I'm not sure. I'll have to have him explain his name, his origin. And then also we're going to dig into the Zero Trust company, Banyan Security, with a Zero Trust network access company. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And we'll try and use the term Zero Trust as little as possible, because I think everyone's heard that term a few times. So hey, Tarun, welcome. And great to have you on the show.
Hey, Den, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's our first podcast. It's our first Banyan Security sponsored event. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, and so one of the things, right? So we were talking before, and we were just talking about like let's have a podcast where we can, really just share our views, our thoughts, get some great guests in, and ideally along the way, we're always going to try and educate people, but really just enlighten people on some of our perspectives, and sometimes hopefully there's going to be some great takeaways. So the Get It Started, Get It Done is really because my reputation in the industry. I've been in several roles where I've led huge initiatives, and we find that people struggle sometimes to get things underway, get it started. And I was like, well, hey, I love that. I've got a reputation, a brand of me getting stuff started, but more importantly, getting it done. So in the topic of a bit of today's conversation, I'd love you to share with us just you've got this company, you're a co-founder of the company. So why don't you introduce yourself, Banyan, what the company is all about, but then more importantly, what made you start a company?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Tarun Desikan. Desikan is how we pronounce it back in India, but I'll take what you give me then. And we're Banyan Security, and we're essentially reimagining security for a world where everyone can work from anywhere. There are different terms brandied around, but specifically Zero Trust network access is the product category you would put us in. And we enable enterprises to connect a remote workforce to the applications they need to do their jobs. That's what we do from a security perspective. How we got started is actually really interesting. We started the company about 5 years ago. My co-founders come from VMware, where they had built a lot of this technology for VMware specific projects. And we just had the spark of an idea that just imagine a world where you didn't come to the office and where the applications didn't run in a data center, they ran in the clouds. What happens to the network layer? So it was really just a technical problem that sparked our curiosity. And the technologists that we went off, we tinkered, and we're like, aha, we have a solution. And so about 5 years ago, we left our day jobs and we're like, let's go do this. Let's take our solution to the market. Turns out, nobody really cared. It was just the reality. It was a nifty piece of technology, and we thought it was earth shattering, but the mass market just wasn't ready for it. But we persevered, right? We built the layer, we built the capabilities, we found some early adopter customers, Adobe being one of them. And Fast forward now 5 years into the journey, this is the reality. The world that we envisioned, for good or bad, is the reality today. You have a remote workforce that comes to the office once or twice a week, maybe at best. Your applications are scattered across the cloud, and you need to reimagine how access and security works. And that's essentially the problem Banyan solves.
Awesome. Now, one of the things I was thinking, so you triggered one of my random thoughts there. So we met through my team at Adobe deploying Zero Trust, but then we were really looking for a partner that could work with us on that vision and strategy. So can you share just some of your thoughts? When did we first meet? What was your story around that?
Yeah, I feel like you don't know this, Den, and I'm going to say it for the first time. We kind of met when Banyan was at an ebb in its journey. So we'd built this awesome technology. We were so proud of it, but really the market reception was just not quite there. And in your team, in Adobe, we found a early adopter IT organization that was looking for us. It was just such a fortunate introduction. We just met at the perfect time where we were looking for validation and you were looking for a partner to build the capability in your organization. And that's how we got introduced to each other. And that's how I think we started collaborating so closely, because it was a good fit from both sides. And fast forward now, 3 years in, Banyan is fully deployed, and hey, Den, you're part of us.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny for me, right? Because I kind of look at it like I was a customer of the company. I believed in the company. I believed in the vision, and then didn't really think about it. I was running my team at Cisco, great company, having a great life there, and then spoke with yourself and Giant, one of the other co-founders, and decided, oh man, this will be a brilliant opportunity. So let's jump aboard. And I do think we've got great technology at the company. I think we've got an awesome team. But more importantly, my experience with the Adobe time was we've got great partnership. So I think anyone when you're looking to make a technology selection, one of the big things for me is, do I have a partner that I can trust with, that will be in the trenches together? And because not everything's always going to be smooth, but when things go wrong, you want to make sure you've got a great partner. Or if you need that special feature, it's always nice to know that you've got someone that's willing to work with you. So for me, that was all cool. And being part of the team now has been brilliant. I got a question. So you are Chief Operating Officer and co-founder. How do you describe your job to either your parents or to dinner guests? Like someone who's not in this industry, how would you describe your job?
Well, I think it's really hard to describe a co-founder's job regardless, because on any given day, you look at what I'm doing, sometimes you're recruiting, sometimes you're firefighting, sometimes you're writing code, sometimes you're making PowerPoint. The same thing that makes it very exciting for someone like me who's scatterbrained as it is, makes it very hard to describe to my mother. She's like, and in fact, it's just really hard to describe. But I try to simplify it. I try to say, 5 years ago, we had this crazy idea. And the crazy idea is that people would work from anywhere. And today, on a day-to-day basis, we try to make that crazy idea a reality. And it's not crazy anymore. It's just another business idea. But that's our job. Our job is to, as founders, is to make something that didn't exist real.
Awesome.
So at that level, I think everyone nods. I tell you though, when I go into the weeds of cryptography and networking, I put everybody to sleep. So I don't go there. I generally don't go there. I just say we had a crazy idea, we built this company, now we just try to make it real.
Yeah, I used to always tell people I was an igloo repairman, because if you ever told people you were in IT, the very first thing that would happen is they don't want you to start helping them with all their crap. Fix my computer, build me a computer. And back in the mid-90s in Scotland, I wasn't interested really in doing any of that. So when I moved to California in 2001, it was cool because nobody really, everybody assumed you were in tech, right? Especially if you were an immigrant and you came to the Bay Area. But I would just start telling people I was an igloo repairman, because I knew for a start, no one's going to need any help with their igloos, not in San Jose. And I figured, it would always be a topic of conversation. So yeah,
I'm
and
just
I
going to
would.
go a little meta here, but the mascot for Linux is the penguin. And if you say you're an igloo repairman, I immediately think you're like a Linux guru.
Well,
Which
I would never claim that.
okay,
I was an ex-Novell guy, and I did
right?
do a lot of stuff on, on Unix with Sun, but yeah, Linux. I'd probably stopped getting as technical by the time Linux was probably the best operating system or more prevalent, right? Um, but for the older people in the audience, OS2 Warp, I really enjoyed playing around with that when I was younger. That was a great operating system. Now I got it. So in the Banyan life, right? So what do you regard as done? What does done look like? From we're a startup. What's the vision for we've got it started. We are definitely
Yes.
underway. So what is good and done look like?
Yeah, that's actually a great question because when you say we got started, and you're right, we have. But if I just look back to how we got started, it was really Banyan. We felt like the Davids against the Goliaths of the world. For 20 odd years, the world has used networking a certain way, and for some reason, we decided we're going to try to do something different. And I would say for the first 2 or 3 years, we were really swimming upstream. Competing with the likes of Palo Alto Networks and Cisco and Zscaler. Pretty much everybody in the industry just didn't get it. And we would go out, my co-founder Jayant and Yoshu and I would go out, we'd give talks at conferences, and everybody would politely nod and then softly clap, and then nobody would talk to us afterwards. Like, who are these crazy dudes? Um, but I think this is what happens in an industry. In an industry, there are always people trying to swim upstream, trying to do something new, and then a phase shift happens. And in that phase shift, something that was not obvious suddenly becomes obvious. It just keeps happening all the time. It happens in every field, in compute, virtualization, cloud, and now in security. And so for me, getting it done is taking this journey to the next level where the, the relying on the network for security, which is the way people have done security for 20 odd years, is just not the way for the future. And so getting it done to me is when IT teams around the world at every organization recognize this reality. And they all come and say, hey, that zero trust thing you spoke about 5 years ago, I'm using it. You may or may not use my product, but you're using the technique. And so I don't know if that'll happen this year, next year. I know it'll happen over the next 10 years for sure. And
Yeah.
so I think getting it done is changing the mentality of the whole world, not just, one or two companies here.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a tipping point, right? The every project I've ever been on, there was always resistance and people thinking you're crazy at the start, and then somewhere down the line, everyone's like, "Holy shit, they're going to pull this off,"
And
and you're
I feel
like,
like it's
"Wow,"
almost a requirement to have impact. If you don't have skeptics, if
Yeah,
everybody on day one is saying, then this is a great idea, it's probably not a good idea. I mean, somebody else would have done it if it was that easy, right?
yeah. And one of my old mentors said, in any strategy, you want to have some level of controversy.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're really not moving the needle, right? You're just doing much of the same, and you're just going to continue to evolve. But that evolution, unless there's some like big leaps of faith and some controversy in that strategy. Now, I always like a little controversy. So just so for people to realize, so we're not one of these companies that just we're not a VPN rebranded sweet big
Right.
behemoth. So what do you think is the difference between some of these big giants that that really they're just a twisted VPN vendor
Right.
with compared to us?
I mean, if you look at the products, right? If you get into the products itself, it becomes very evident to anyone using these products. But the reality is, most IT teams rely on marketing, they rely on website, they rely on literature, and it's much easier to go into literature and change a few words. So I would say pretty much any of these big vendors, if they were a networking vendor that was built in the 2000s, they came at it with connectivity in mind. Like that was their job. They built networks. That was their job, physical networks and maybe virtual networks. And in the last couple of years, they've gone and put a zero trust sticker on it, a cloud sticker on it. That's not how technology works, right? You just don't put a sticker on something. Well, the marketing message is pretty good, but I'll name names like you look at Palo Alto Networks or Pulse F5. They all know that it's just a sticker, but they all know that it's good enough for now. And that's one of the difficulties in the IT space. Good enough is often okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the only way to actually figure out if something is really a zero trust product or not is to try it, is to use it yourself, use it in your environment, see if it meets that security posture that you aspire to. And my commitment as one of the founders of the business is that, Banyan aspires to take our customers to a zero trust ideal. And we have a very explicit definition of it. We've built our platform from scratch for it. And if you can just take a VPN and put a zero trust sticker, it does not a zero trust make. Right? And that's just the reality of the situation. But it's honestly one of the biggest challenges for us. It's what keeps me up at night is how do you overcome the marketing spend of the Palo Altos of the world? They really have the audience over the years in their pockets, as it were.
Now, I think it was you that had the idea to create a Teams edition. What was the thinking behind that? And then what is the Teams edition enable people to do?
Right. It's actually, it wasn't necessarily my idea. I got the idea in a call with Doug Song, the founder of Duo Security, actually, and who was at Cisco, and I think you know
Yep,
him well
great
then.
guy.
And
Yep, great guy.
he has a very strong thesis. He's like, it's 2020, the best product will win. The switching costs have never been lower in IT, and the best product will win. It may not win today, it may not win next year, but over a duration, it will win. And so that to us, just a light bulb went off in my head. Like, how do you compete with these big networking vendors? Well, put the product out for free, let people try it for themselves. And we call it the team edition because it's really designed for small teams. But the capabilities are full fledged. Like every capability in Banyan is available in our team edition. And so it's almost essential in 2020 to have a self serve free product that an IT professional can try for themselves. And if you're a true zero trust company, you should have no trouble doing that. But if you're a rebranded VPN, it's going to be hard for you to break a self-serve product. I'm pretty confident of that. And that was why we
Yeah,
did it.
yeah, awesome, awesome. Now, hey, so when you're not working, right? So obviously you put 4,000 hours into this job each week. Because it's a startup, you're a co-founder, that's what's expected of you. So when you're not working, though, what do you do for fun? What's your hobbies?
Well, I have two little kids, and anyone will tell you they're both the boon of my existence and the bane of my existence. And I have two little daughters, and I live vicariously through them. I spend most of my free time ferrying them from a swim class to a music class to the park. My life just revolves around my kids when I'm not working. I do try to carve out some time to do something outside, cycling, boarding, some of my youthful activities. But I'm old now, Dan. I hurt myself more than I actually do one of those sports.
And I can only imagine you snowboarding down a slope in Tahoe and stuff. It's probably not something when you're back in India that you done very often. So what made you pick up snowboarding?
Well, I had never even seen snow till I came here. But then when you see snow, something just goes off in your head. It's light, it has no friction, it's so fluffy, it just kind of sparks your imagination. I just fell in love with it. There was a year, I think 2002, where I drove up maybe 25 times to Tahoe. And I just learned that year. I just learned how to snowboard that year. It was just love at first sight.
Yeah, there's definitely a good adrenaline rush. And then for me, I'm a bit of a shopaholic, so I love the gear,
Oh
right? So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
I
love
love
gear.
buying snowboarding gear. So I can't help myself between snowboarding gear, but mainly buying vinyl these days. I just can't get over it. So I'd love. So we're going to have a lot of success this year. I can feel that, and we're going to have to toast ourselves quite often as we celebrate that success. So if you're going to have a choice drink to toast at the end of the day, what's your favorite drink?
Oh, so I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. Uh, when I say old-fashioned, I just don't mean in age. I mean the drink with the bourbon and a bit of, and and I'll tell you why though. Growing up, we all watched James Bond, right? And it was the shaken not stirred martini, and I always aspired to have a drink associated with me. And over the years, the old fashioned has become it.
That's I see. I've normally it was beer and wine, but then my cousin got me into gin.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a very simple gin and tonic. But being a Scottish guy, I drink a lot, and I kind of I'm trying to always reduce that and improve the life and things of that nature. So yeah, I want to kind of not advocate that everyone goes out and starts drinking. It's not the podcast for that just yet, but just drink responsibly, I think, is probably the thing we'll leave you with. Now we're going to do this podcast on a regular basis. I'd love to hear one story. Describe to me one story from ideally like a news article this week. So we always talk in the office about the news or in our virtual hangouts and stuff. So what's the best news article or story you've heard this week?
Yeah, I just followed this one. I follow crypto. In our zero trust security product, we use cryptography heavily, but crypto in modern literature refers to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and so on. So I follow that as well. And just this past week, there was a $250 million hack of the wormhole bridge. Essentially, what happened is these hackers found a flaw in how these blockchains were connected, and they exploited it, and they were able to basically put a transaction in that basically sent $250 million to themselves. That itself wasn't that interesting. These hacks happen all the time. What I find really interesting is within a couple of hours, the founders of Wormhole patched the $250 million. They essentially put $250 million back into the blockchain. And essentially, it was like the bad guys took $250 million away, but the sponsors of the Wormhole project put $250 million back in. I'm like, what is this? This is how I play Monopoly with my 5-year-old daughter. Okay, we have a bunch of paper money. She goes and spends it on all these terrible houses, and she's like, Dada, I have no more money. And I'm like, here, it's okay, here, take it. It's just paper money. And so I found that news article really, really illuminating. It really illuminated me on the state of crypto today. Paper money, lofty valuations, absolutely made up rules.
I was thinking you were about to say, and they took the money, they jumped into the metaverse, and they bought the house next door to Snoop.
Oh, yeah, that could be good too. I did see that Justin Bieber just had his first concert in the metaverse. Can you guess the attendance?
No idea. 12.
11.2 million people attended Justin's concert. I mean, the Biebs is great, but 11 million? That's insane.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily thinking he was that great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd maybe like expect that of Snoop Dogg or something, because he's this guy's everywhere these days. Now I heard the rumor that Snoop Dogg is one of your idols. So what's going on there?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is a public podcast. I shouldn't talk so much about weed and stuff. But if you look at someone who reinvents his career every few years, Snoop Dogg is the boss. He started as a gangster rapper. He moved into more of a musician. He started his own label. And if you look at his latest inventions, he now has a cookbook with Martha Stewart. He's an NFL commentator. He commentates the Olympics. He runs his own VC fund. He has a house in the metaverse that's worth $1 million. Like, this guy is just my hero. I mean, it's insane what Snoop has been able to pull off.
And he's performing at the Super Bowl. I mean, I think by the time this podcast airs, he will have performed at the Super Bowl. But
I didn't know that.
He's performing there. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I think him and Eminem. So
are you thinking Super Bowl this year or like 10 years ago?
I don't know. Hey, look, he reinvented himself. So hey, we'll find out. We'll find out for sure. So there's a couple of things. So we're going to have some great guests on the podcast. So of all the guests coming up, which one do you think is going to be more exciting and why? Do you have any thoughts there?
I'm actually most interested in hearing from your friends or your colleagues who have kind of risen up the security hierarchy to where they run their own security organizations. Because I'll tell you, especially now as a vendor or even from LinkedIn, all you get to see is kind of that final title and the public persona they put in their public channels. You never actually get to hear how they got where they got. I'm most interested in those kinds of journeys, right? I really don't care about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs that much. I really want to know more about the extraordinary journeys of fairly normal people. That's what I want to learn.
And we're going to do. There's a few things around the corner, right? We've got a panel discussion that we're doing in partnership with the IDSA coming up. We've got some great guests on the podcast. I mean, for me, I'm really excited to have some of my friends on the podcast. From Eric Anderson at Adobe, and then Sarah Tanisi at Tanisi Tech, people who I did grow my career with, and then some other people that I've worked with in the last few years. So Teresa Payton, she's ex-CIO for the White House, but she's a CEO of her own security company now. And then, we've got Elvis Chan, who's a FBI special agent in the cyber San Francisco office. And then, John Kindervag, the founder or godfather of Zero Trust. So it'd be exciting to have him join. So I think there's going to be no shortness of great guests that we're going to discover. And we're also going to have a call out there for future guests as well. So if people want to join the podcast, or if they have desires to hear from certain people, hey, let us know, because that I think would be great. So Tarun, first of all, thank you very much. I know that you eat, sleep, and breathe Banyan, and you love the industry we're in, and you're very passionate. So it's been great having you on the show to share your passion. Now, as we wrap, and then I'll let you depart because I know you're busy doing all that work business. What's the one takeaway you'd want to leave everybody with as you close out today?
Well, I'm passionate about the space we're in, but I'm also really passionate about enabling the next generation of entrepreneurs, especially security entrepreneurs, to start their businesses. And the one takeaway I would love to leave listeners with is you have to take some risk in order to accomplish a goal. I think that's just the reality of how it works. And startups are just the extreme end of that risk, where you have to leave your cushy job and you have to potentially jump into the unknown and not know where to go. And I think what is really important is to commit to doing it, and then surround yourself with people who can help you get there. And there are lots of us around. So I would love to leave that anybody can do it. And I think more people should do it.
Awesome. Well, Tarun, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate having you on the show. And so let me just give you some space back. I'm gonna wrap up here. So everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully you found some level of entertainment and maybe some education. I'm not sure. We do have future guests today. Sarah Tanisi from Tanisi Tech, as I mentioned, so she's going to join us on our next show. And if you want to check out anything Banyan related, then you can go to banyansecurity.io. And that Teams edition, I tell you, it's really brilliant. If you're a small team, or if you've got a small team in your organization, you want to try stuff for free without contacting salespeople, which for me as a practitioner, I always loved avoiding salespeople. So that's a great way for you to go. So everybody, thank you very much. Be safe, and thank you for checking us out, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Banyan Security and find future episodes of the podcast, please visit us at banyansecurity.io. Special thanks to Urban Punks for providing the music for this episode. You can find their track Summer Silk and all their music at urbanpunks.com.